Listen to me. Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to be great, but nobody wants to be consistent. You wake up one day motivated. You grind hard. Next day, you tired. You distracted. You quit. That's why you're losing. See, success ain't about what you do once. It's about what you do every single day. Consistency is not sexy. Consistency is waking up when you don't feel like it. Consistency is showing up when nobody is clapping for you. Consistency is putting in work when you don't see results yet. You say you want to win, then you got to fall in love with the process. Because champions don't become champions on game day. They become champions in the dark, when nobody's watching, when it's just them and they're disciplined. Let me tell you something. You don't need more motivation. You need more commitment. You don't need another video. You need another level of discipline. Small steps every day. That's how greatness is built. Brick by brick, day by day, rep by rep. And one day, you're going to wake up and realize you're not the same person anymore. Why? Because consistency changed you. So stop waiting. Stop making excuses. Stop starting and stopping. Make a decision and stick with it. Because the difference between average and greatness is consistency. Consistency beats motivation every time because motivation is temporary, emotional, and unreliable. While consistency is built on discipline, structure, and deliberate action repeated over time. Motivation feels powerful in the moment. It gives you a rush of energy, excitement, and belief that you can conquer anything. It often shows up at the beginning of a journey, when everything is new, when the vision is clear, and when the end goal feels inspiring. But the problem with motivation is that it fades. It disappears when things get hard, when results don't come quickly, when you're tired, stressed, or distracted. Motivation depends on how you feel, and feelings are constantly changing. If you rely only on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent because your emotions are inconsistency. On the other hand, doesn't depend on how you feel. It depends on what you decide, baby. It is the ability to show up and do the work whether you are excited or not, whether you feel confident or doubtful, whether conditions are perfect or not. Consistency is about creating a system, a routine, a stand that you follow no matter what. It is doing the same thing over and over again, even when it feels boring, even when it feels slow, even when you don't see immediate results. And that's where its power lies. Because consistency compounds. When you take small actions start to add up. One workout may not change your body, but hundreds of workouts over time will. 1 hour of study may not make you an expert, but thousands of hours will. One effort may not bring success, but repeated efforts build momentum, skill, and confidence. This is something motivation cannot do because motivation is inconsistent by nature. It may push you hard for a short period, but it cannot sustain long-term growth. Think about the times you felt extremely motivated. Maybe you started a new goal, working out, learning a skill, building a business, or improving your habits. At the beginning, you were energized. You pushed hard, maybe even harder than necessary. But after a few days or weeks, that energy dropped. Suddenly, it became difficult to continue. That's the moment where most people stop. Not because they are incapable, but because they were relying on motivation instead of consistency. Consistency changes the game because it removes the need to feel ready. You don't wait for the perfect mood or the perfect moment. You act because it's part of who you are. It becomes automatic. Just like brushing your teeth or waking up at a certain time, consistent behavior becomes a habit. And once something becomes a habit, it requires less mental effort. You no longer debate whether to do it, you just do it. Another reason consistency is more powerful is that it builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on something you said you would do, you reinforce your identity as someone who is reliable and disciplined. Over time, this creates confidence, not the kind of confidence that comes from hype or temporary success, but a deep, stable confidence that comes from knowing you can depend on yourself. Motivation can make you feel confident for a moment, but consistency proves that confidence through action. Consistency also helps you push through difficult phases. Every meaningful goal comes with challenges, plateaus, failures, setbacks, and moments of doubt. Motivation tends to disappear during these times because the situation no longer feels exciting or rewarding. But consistency allows you to keep going even when progress is slow or invisible. It helps you stay focused on the long-term vision instead of getting discouraged by short-term struggles. Get choked. In fact, most success stories are not built on moments of high motivation, but on long periods of consistent effort. People who achieve great things often don't feel extraordinary every day. They don't wake up every morning full of energy and excitement. They simply commit to their routine and follow through, day after day, regardless of how they feel. Over time, this steady effort leads to significant results. Another important aspect is that consistency creates momentum. When you do something regularly, it becomes easier to continue. Missing one day might not seem like a big deal, but it can break your rhythm. On the other hand, maintaining a streak builds a sense of progress and achievement. The longer you stay consistent, the more invested you become, and the harder it is to stop. This momentum is something motivation alone cannot sustain, because motivation fluctuates too much. Consistency also teaches patience. In a world where people expect instant results, consistency reminds you that real growth takes time. It helps you focus on the process rather than the outcome. Instead of constantly checking for results, you focus on doing the work. And ironically, this is what eventually leads to results. When you stop chasing quick success and start committing to consistent effort, success becomes a byproduct of your actions. It's also important to understand that consistency doesn't mean perfection. You don't have to be perfect every single day. There will be days when your performance is not at its best. There will be days when you feel tired or distracted. But consistency means you still show up and do what you can. So, even a small effort is better than no effort. Over time, these small efforts maintain your progress and prevent you from falling back. Consistency is also closely linked to discipline. Discipline is the ability to do what needs to be done. Even when you don't feel like doing it. It is the foundation of consistency. While motivation can give you a temporary push, discipline ensures that you keep moving forward. And the more disciplined you become, the easier it is to stay consistent. Another powerful aspect of consistency is that it reduces decision fatigue. When you rely on motivation, you constantly have to decide whether to act or not. This creates mental stress and increases the chances of procrastination. But when you build consistent habits, you remove the need for constant decision-making. Your actions become part of your routine, which makes it easier to follow through. Consistency also builds resilience. When you commit to showing up every day, you learn how to deal with challenges, setbacks, and failures. You become stronger mentally and emotionally. Instead of giving up when things get tough, you learn to adapt and keep going. This resilience is essential for long-term success, and it cannot be developed through motivation alone. In many ways, consistency is a form of self-respect. It shows that you value your goals enough to work on them regularly. It shows that you are willing to invest time and effort into your own growth. When you stay consistent, you send a message to yourself that your goals matter. This creates a positive cycle where your actions reinforce your beliefs, and your beliefs reinforce your actions. It's also worth noting that consistency creates clarity. When you take action regularly, you gain experience. You learn what works and what doesn't. You improve your skills and refine your approach. Motivation alone cannot give you this level of understanding because it does not involve sustained effort. Consistency, however, allows you to learn and grow continuously. Over time, consistency leads to mastery. Mastery is not achieved through occasional bursts of effort, but through repeated practice and continuous improvement. Whether it's a skill, a profession, or a professional goal, mastery requires time, patience, and consistent effort. This is why consistency is often described as the ultimate competitive advantage, because most people are not willing to stay consistent for long enough to see significant results. Another key point is that consistency creates stability. When your actions are consistent, your progress becomes predictable. You know that if you continue doing the work, you will eventually see results. This stability reduces anxiety and uncertainty, making it easier to stay focused and committed. Consistency also influences others. So, when people see that you are reliable and disciplined, They begin to respect and trust you. This can open up opportunities and create positive relationships. In contrast, relying on motivation often leads to inconsistent behavior, which can make you seem unreliable. Ultimately, the reason consistency beats motivation every time is that it is sustainable. Motivation is like a spark. It can ignite action, but it cannot keep the fire burning. Consistency is like fuel. It keeps the fire going, even when the spark fades. And in the long run, it's not the spark that matters, but the fire that continues to burn. When you understand this, you stop chasing motivation and start building systems. You focus on creating habits, routines, and structures that support your goals. You accept that there will be days when you don't feel like doing the work, but you do it anyway. And over time, this approach leads to results that motivation alone could never achieve. Consistency is not easy. It requires effort, discipline, and patience, but it is simple. Show up, do the work, repeat, day after day, step by step. And eventually, those small, consistent actions will lead you to where you want to be. Small daily actions create big results because progress is rarely the outcome of one massive effort or a single breakthrough moment. Instead, it is the result of repeated, intentional steps taken over time. These steps may seem insignificant in isolation, almost too small to matter. But when they are performed consistently, they begin to accumulate. This accumulation is what transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. At first, small actions often feel pointless. Reading a few pages of a book does not immediately make you knowledgeable. Exercising for 20 minutes does not instantly change your body. Practicing a skill for a short period does not suddenly make you an expert. Because the results are not immediate. Many people underestimate the value of these actions. They look for something bigger, faster, or more dramatic, believing that success must come from large, noticeable efforts. But this mindset overlooks one of the most important principles of growth: compounding. Compounding means that the effects of your actions build on top of each other. Each small action adds a little more progress, and over time, that progress multiplies. It is similar to how saving a small amount of money regularly can grow into a large sum through interest. The same principle applies to personal development, skills, health, and success. The key is not the size of the action, but the consistency with which it is performed. When you take small actions every day, you create momentum. Momentum makes it easier to keep going because you are no longer starting from zero each time. Instead of struggling to begin, you are continuing something that is already in motion. This reduces resistance and makes the process feel more natural. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes manageable, and what once felt impossible begins to feel achievable. Another important aspect of small daily actions is that they help build habits. Habits are behaviors that become automatic through repetition. When an action becomes a habit, it requires less mental effort and willpower. You no longer have to force yourself to do it. It becomes part of your routine. This is crucial because willpower is limited. If you rely only on bursts of effort, you will eventually burn out. But if you turn your actions into habits, you can sustain them over the long term. Small actions also reduce the feeling of overwhelm. Big goals can be intimidating. When you focus on the entire journey, it can feel too difficult, too far away. This often leads to procrastination or avoidance. But when you break a big goal into small, manageable steps, it becomes less intimidating. Instead of thinking about everything you have to do, you focus on what you can do right now. This makes it easier to take action and maintain consistency. In addition, small daily actions allow for continuous improvement. Each time you perform an action, you have an opportunity to learn and get better. You can make adjustments, refine your approach, and build on your previous efforts. Over time, these small improvements add up, leading to significant growth. This process is often gradual and subtle, but its impact is powerful. One of the reasons small actions are so effective is that they are sustainable. Large efforts are difficult to maintain over time. They require a high level of energy, focus, and motivation, which can be exhausting. Small actions, on the other hand, are easier to integrate into your daily life. They do not require a dramatic change in your routine, making them more likely to stick. Sustainability is essential for long-term success. because progress requires time. Small daily actions also help build discipline. Discipline is not developed through occasional effort, but through consistent practice. Each time you choose to take a small step instead of doing nothing, you strengthen your ability to act despite distractions or lack of motivation. Over time, this builds a strong sense of self-control and reliability. Another key benefit is that small actions create a sense of progress. Even if the progress is slow, it is still progress. This can be motivating because it shows that your efforts are not wasted. Seeing even a small improvement can reinforce your commitment and encourage you to keep going. This positive feedback loop is important for maintaining consistency. It is also important to recognize that small actions often lead to unexpected opportunities. When you take action regularly, you put yourself in a position to learn, connect, and grow. You may discover new ideas, meet new people, or develop new skills. These opportunities may not have been available if you had not taken those initial steps. In this way, small actions can open doors that lead to bigger outcomes. Small daily actions also help you build resilience. When you commit to taking action every day, you learn how to deal with challenges and setbacks. Not every day will be perfect. There will be obstacles, distractions, and moments of doubt. But by continuing to take small steps, you develop the ability to keep going despite difficulties. This resilience is essential for long-term success. Another important point is that small actions help you focus on the process rather than the outcome. When you are focused only on the end result, it is easy to become frustrated or discouraged if progress is slow. But when you focus on the daily actions, you shift your attention to what you can control. This makes the journey more manageable and less stressful. Small daily actions also reinforce your identity. Each time you take a step toward your goal, you are reinforcing the belief that you are someone who takes action. For example, if you write a little every day, you begin to see yourself as a writer. If you exercise regularly, you begin to see yourself as someone who values fitness. The shift in identity is powerful because it influences your behavior. When you see yourself in a certain way, you are more likely to act in alignment with that identity. Over time, the gap between small actions and big results begins to close. What once seemed insignificant starts to produce noticeable changes. Your skills improve, your confidence grows, and your progress becomes more visible. It's often the point where people realize the true value of their efforts. But it is important to understand that these results did not come from a single action. They came from the accumulation of many small actions over time. Another reason small actions are effective is that they allow for flexibility. If something is too difficult or time-consuming, it is more likely to be avoided. But small actions can be adjusted to fit your circumstances. Even on busy or difficult days, you can still take a small step. This flexibility helps you maintain consistency, which is more important than intensity. Small daily actions also reduce the fear of failure. When the stakes are low, it is easier to take action. You are not risking a large amount of time or effort, so the pressure is lower. This makes it easier to experiment, learn, improve. Over time, this reduces hesitation and increases confidence. It is also worth noting that small actions can create a ripple effect. One positive action can lead to another. For example, exercising may improve your energy levels, which can help you focus better on your work. Completing a small task can give you a sense of accomplishment, which can motivate you to take another step. These ripple effects can amplify your progress and make your efforts more impactful. Small daily actions are also important because they help you stay consistent during periods of low motivation. When you don't feel like doing much, a small action is often manageable. Instead of doing nothing, it still makes some progress. This prevents you from falling into a cycle of inactivity, which can be difficult to break. Over time, the accumulation of small actions leads to transformation. This transformation may not be immediately visible, but it is happening beneath the surface. Your skills, habits, mindset, and identity are all evolving. Eventually, these changes become noticeable both to you and to others. The power of small daily actions lies in their simplicity. You do not need to make drastic changes or take extreme measures. You just need to take consistent, intentional steps. This approach may not be exciting or dramatic, but it is effective. It is the foundation of long-term success and growth. When you understand this, you stop waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. You start focusing on what you can do right now, no matter how small it may seem. You trust that these small actions will add up over time. And as you continue to take these steps, you begin to see the results of your efforts. Small daily actions may not feel powerful in the moment, but their impact over time is undeniable. They shape your habits, build your discipline, and move you closer to your goals. Step by step, day by day, they create the results that once seemed out of reach. Discipline is stronger than feelings because feelings are temporary, unpredictable, and often misleading, while discipline is rooted in commitment, structure, and conscious choice. Every person experiences fluctuations in emotion throughout the day, moments of energy, excitement, laziness, doubt, frustration, and even fear. These feelings are natural, but they are not reliable guides for action. If you base your decisions entirely on how you feel in the moment, your behavior will constantly shift and your progress will become inconsistent. Feelings are influenced by many factors: sleep, environment, stress, distractions, past experiences, and even things as simple as what you ate or how your day started. Because of this, they can change quickly and without warning. You might feel highly motivated one morning and completely unmotivated the next. You might feel confident one day and doubtful the next. If you allow these emotional fluctuations to dictate your actions, you will only move forward when conditions feel right and stop when they don't. This creates a cycle of starting and stopping that prevents long-term growth. Discipline operates differently. It is not dependent on emotion. It is based on decision. It is the ability to act according to what you know is important, regardless of how you feel. Discipline requires you to separate your actions from your emotions and to follow through on your commitments, even when your feelings are not aligned with your goals. It is about doing what needs to be done, not what feels comfortable or easy in the moment. One of the key reasons discipline is stronger than feelings is that it creates stability. When your actions are guided by discipline, they become consistent. You are no longer at the mercy of your mood or your environment. Instead, you follow a set of standards or routines that keep you moving forward. This consistency is essential for progress because it allows you to build momentum over time. Without discipline, your efforts become scattered and unpredictable. Discipline also helps you overcome resistance. Resistance is the internal force that pushes you away from tasks that require effort, focus, or discomfort. It often shows up as procrastination, excuses, or avoidance. Feelings tend to amplify this resistance. When you feel tired, stressed, or unmotivated, resistance becomes stronger, making it even harder to take action. Discipline, however, allows you to push through this resistance. It gives you the ability to act despite discomfort, which is crucial for achieving meaningful goals. Another important aspect of discipline is that it builds reliability. When you consistently follow through on your commitments, you develop trust in yourself. You begin to see yourself as someone who does what they say they will do. This self-trust is incredibly valuable because it strengthens your confidence and reduces self-doubt. Feelings, on the other hand, do not build this kind of reliability because they are inconsistent by nature. Discipline also plays a critical role in long-term success because it allows you to stay focused on your goals even when progress is slow. Many goals require sustained effort over a long period of time. During this time, there will be moments when results are not visible and motivation is low. Feelings in these moments may tell you to quit or take a break, but discipline keeps you going. It reminds you of your commitment and helps you stay focused on the bigger picture. In addition, discipline helps you develop mental strength. Each time you choose to act, despite not feeling like it, you strengthen your ability to control your behavior. This creates a sense of inner power and resilience. Over time, you become less influenced by temporary emotion and more focused on your long-term objectives. This mental strength is essential for navigating challenges and setbacks. Discipline also reduces the impact of negative emotions. Everyone experiences moments of doubt, fear, or frustration. These emotions can be overwhelming if you allow them to control your actions. But when you rely on discipline, you create a separation between your emotions and your behavior. You acknowledge your feelings without allowing them to dictate your decisions. This gives you greater control over your actions and prevents negative emotions from derailing your progress. Another important benefit of discipline is that it helps you build productive habits. Habits are formed through repeated actions, and discipline is what allows you to repeat those actions consistently. Over time, these habits become automatic, requiring less effort and decision-making. This makes it easier to maintain your progress and continue moving forward. Feelings alone cannot create habits because they are too inconsistent. Discipline also helps you manage your time and energy more effectively. When you rely on feeling, you may choose to do tasks based on what feels easiest or most enjoyable in the moment. This can lead to poor time management and a lack of focus on important tasks. Discipline, however, allows you to prioritize what matters most and allocate your time and energy accordingly. This leads to more productive and meaningful use of your resources. It is also important to understand that discipline is not about suppressing your feelings or ignoring them completely. Feelings provide valuable information about your state of mind and your environment. However, they should not be the sole factor in your decision-making process. Discipline allows you to acknowledge your feelings while still choosing actions that align with your goals and values. Discipline also helps you build resilience in the face of failure. Failure is a natural part of any journey, and it often comes with negative emotions such as disappointment, frustration, or self-doubt. If you rely on feeling, these emotions can discourage you from continuing. But discipline helps you push through failure and keep moving forward. It allows you to learn from your mistakes and continue working toward your goals. Another key aspect of discipline is that it creates a sense of control. When you act based on discipline rather than feeling, you take ownership of your actions. You are no longer reacting to your emotions. You are making deliberate choices. This sense of control is empowering because it allows you to shape your behavior and your future. Discipline also helps you stay committed during difficult times. Life is unpredictable, and there will be periods when things are challenging or overwhelming. During these times, your feelings may tell you to give up or take a step back. But discipline provides a foundation that keeps you grounded. It helps you maintain your routines and continue making progress, even in the face of adversity. Over time, discipline becomes part of your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who is consistent, reliable, and committed. This identity influences your behavior and reinforces your action. The more disciplined you become, the easier it is to continue being disciplined. This creates a positive cycle of growth and improvement. Another important point is that discipline leads to freedom. While it may seem restrictive at first, discipline actually creates more opportunities in the long run. By consistently working toward your goals, you build skills, resources, and confidence that open new possibilities. In contrast, relying on feelings often leads to short-term comfort but long-term limitation. Discipline also helps you avoid regret. When you act based on feelings, you may choose short-term comfort over long-term success. This can lead to missed opportunities and a sense of regret. But when you act with discipline, you make decisions that align with your goals and values. This reduces the likelihood of regret and increases your sense of fulfillment. It's also worth noting that discipline requires practice. It is not something that develops overnight. It is built through repeated effort and conscious decision-making. Each time you choose discipline over feelings, you strengthen your ability to do so in the future. Over time, this becomes easier and more natural. Discipline also helps you maintain focus. In a world full of distractions, it is easy to lose sight of your goals. Feelings can make this even more difficult by pulling your attention in different directions. Discipline, however, allows you to stay focused on what matters most. It helps you filter out distractions and stay committed to your priorities. Another powerful aspect of discipline is that it creates consistency in your behavior. Consistency is essential for progress because it allows you to build on your previous efforts. When your actions are consistent, your progress becomes more predictable and sustainable. Feelings alone cannot provide this level of consistency. Discipline also helps you develop a strong work ethic. A strong work ethic is the willingness to put in effort and stay committed to your goals. It is built through consistent action and dedication. Discipline is what allows you to develop and maintain this work ethic over time. Ultimately, discipline is stronger than feelings because it provides a stable foundation for action. Feelings may come and go, but discipline remains constant. It allows you to act with purpose and intention, regardless of your emotional state. This is what makes it such a powerful force for growth and success. When you rely on discipline, you are no longer controlled by temporary emotion. You take control of your actions and your direction. Such your direction. You commit to your goals and follow through, even when it is difficult. And over time, this commitment leads to progress, growth, and achievement that feelings alone can never sustain. Success is built in repetition because improvement, growth, and mastery are not the result of a single effort, but the outcome of doing the same things over and over again with intention and focus. At the core of every achievement lies a process that has been repeated countless times. Whether it is learning a skill, building a career, improving health, or developing a mindset, repetition is what turns effort into progress and progress into results. At first, repetition can feel monotonous. Doing the same task again and again may seem boring or unexciting, especially in a world that constantly promotes quick results and instant gratification. Many people start something new with enthusiasm, but as soon as the novelty wears off, they lose interest. They begin to search for something different, something more exciting, believing that success requires constant change. However, this approach often leads to inconsistency and prevents them from reaching their full potential. Repetition, on the other hand, requires patience. It asks you to stay with the process long enough to see results. It demands that you focus on doing the same fundamental actions repeatedly, even when they do not feel exciting. This is where most people struggle, because repetition does not provide immediate rewards. The benefits are gradual and often invisible at first, but this is also what makes repetition so powerful, because it works beneath the surface, building a foundation that eventually leads to visible success. One of the key reasons repetition is essential is that it builds skill. When you perform an action repeatedly, you become more familiar with it. Your understanding deepens, your technique improves, and your efficiency increases. What once felt difficult begins to feel natural. This is how learning works. The brain strengthens neural connections through repetition, making it easier to perform tasks with less effort over time. Without repetition, skills remain undeveloped and inconsistent. Repetition also reduces errors. In the beginning, mistakes are common. You may struggle to perform a task correctly or consistently, but each time you repeat the action, you learn from those mistakes. You make small adjustments, refine your approach, and improve your performance. Over time, these improvements accumulate, leading to a higher level of accuracy and effectiveness. This process cannot be rushed, and it cannot be skipped. It requires repeated effort and continuous practice. Another important aspect of repetition is that it builds confidence. Confidence is not something that appears suddenly. It is developed through experience. Each time you repeat an action, you reinforce your ability to perform it. You begin to trust yourself more, knowing that you have done it before and can do it again. This confidence makes it easier to take on new challenges and push beyond your comfort zone. Repetition also creates consistency, which is essential for success. When you repeat the same actions regularly, they become part of your routine. This reduces the need for decision-making and makes it easier to stay on track. Instead of constantly thinking about what to do next, you follow a set pattern that keeps you moving forward. This consistency is what allows you to build momentum and maintain progress over time. In addition, repetition helps you develop discipline. It requires you to show up and do the work, even when you do not feel like it. It challenges you to stay committed to the process, regardless of your mood or external circumstances. Each time you repeat an action, you strengthen your ability to stay focused and disciplined. Over time, this becomes a habit, making it easier to continue the process. Repetition also plays a crucial role in mastering fundamentals. In any field, there are basic skills or principles that form the foundation of success. These fundamentals may seem simple, but they are essential. Repetition allows you to internalize these basics, ensuring that they become second nature. This is important because advanced skills are built on a strong foundation. Without mastering the basics, it is difficult to achieve higher levels of performance. Another reason repetition is powerful is that it creates efficiency. As you repeat an action, you learn how to perform it more effectively. You eliminate unnecessary steps, improve your timing, and use your energy more efficiently. This allows you to achieve better results with less effort. Over time, this efficiency can make a significant difference in your overall performance. Repetition also helps you stay focused on the process rather than the outcome. When you are focused on repeating the necessary actions, you are less likely to become distracted by short-term results. This allows you to maintain a long-term perspective and stay committed to your goals. It also reduces stress and frustration as you are not constantly measuring your progress against immediate outcomes. Another important aspect of repetition is that it builds resilience. Repeating the same actions over time means facing challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. Not every attempt will be successful, and not every day will be easy. But repetition teaches you to keep going despite these difficulties. It helps you develop the ability to persevere, which is essential for achieving long-term success. Repetition also reinforces learning. Each time you perform an action, you strengthen your understanding of it. This makes it easier to recall and apply that knowledge in the future. Over time, this leads to deeper learning and greater expertise. Without repetition, knowledge remains superficial and easily forgotten. It is also important to recognize that repetition does not mean doing the same thing mindlessly. Effective repetition involves deliberate practice. This means paying attention to what you are doing, identifying areas for improvement, and making adjustments. It requires focus and intention rather than simply going through the motions. When repetition is combined with deliberate practice, it becomes a powerful tool for growth. Repetition also helps you build endurance. Whether it is physical, mental, or emotional, endurance is developed through repeated effort. Each time you push yourself to continue, you increase your capacity to handle challenges. This makes it easier to sustain effort over long periods, which is often necessary for achieving meaningful goals. Another key benefit of repetition is that it creates familiarity. When you repeat an action enough times, it becomes comfortable. This reduces fear and uncertainty, making it easier to take action. What once felt intimidating begins to feel manageable, and eventually it becomes second nature. Repetition also plays a role in shaping your identity. When you consistently repeat certain actions, they become part of who you are. For example, if you practice a skill regularly, you begin to see yourself as someone who is skilled in that area. This shift in identity reinforces your behavior and makes it easier to stay committed. Over time, repetition leads to mastery. Mastery is not achieved through occasional effort or bursts of activity. It is the result of sustained, consistent practice over a long period. It requires dedication, patience, and a willingness to repeat the same actions until they are perfected. This is why repetition is often described as the path to excellence. Repetition also helps you build momentum. Each time you perform an action, you reinforce your progress. This creates a sense of continuity, making it easier to keep going. Momentum is important because it reduces resistance and increases motivation. The more you repeat an action, the more natural it becomes, and the easier it is to continue. Another important aspect of repetition is that it allows you to track progress. When you perform the same actions regularly, you can measure your improvement over time. This provides valuable feedback and helps you stay motivated. It also allows you to identify areas where you need to improve and adjust your approach accordingly. Repetition also encourages patience. In a fast-paced world, it is easy to become impatient and expect quick results. But repetition teaches you to appreciate the process and understand that growth takes time. It helps you develop a long-term mindset, which is essential for achieving lasting success. It is also worth noting that repetition builds habits. Habits are formed through repeated actions, and they play a significant role in shaping your behavior. Once a habit is established, it requires less effort to maintain. This makes it easier to stay consistent and continue making progress. Repetition also reduces the fear of failure. When you repeat an action multiple times, you become more comfortable with the possibility of making mistakes. You begin to see failure as part of the learning process rather than something to avoid. This mindset allows you to take more risks and push yourself further. Another benefit of repetition is that it strengthens your focus. Performing the same task repeatedly requires concentration and attention. Over time, this improves your ability to focus and stay engaged. This is especially important in a world filled with distractions. Repetition also helps you build a strong work ethic. A strong work ethic is developed through consistent effort and dedication. It is not something that can be achieved overnight. Repetition reinforces this work ethic by requiring you to show up and do the work regularly. Ultimately, success is built in repetition because it is through repeated effort that progress is made. Each action, no matter how small, contributes to your overall growth. Over time, these actions accumulate, leading to significant results. Repetition may not always be exciting, but it is effective. It is the foundation upon which success is built, and it is the process that transforms effort into achievement. Showing up matters more than perfection, because perfection is often an illusion, while showing up is a real, measurable action that moves you forward. Many people delay taking action because they want everything to be just right before they begin. They wait for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect conditions, or even the perfect version of themselves. But in doing so, they lose valuable time and miss opportunities to grow. Progress does not come from waiting for perfection. It comes from consistent participation. Perfection creates pressure. It sets a standard that is often unrealistic and difficult to maintain. When you aim for perfection, you may become overly focused on avoiding mistakes rather than making progress. This can lead to hesitation, overthinking, and even paralysis. You might spend so much time trying to get everything right that you end up doing nothing at all. Showing up, on the other hand, removes that pressure. It shifts your focus from being flawless to being present and engaged in the process. When you show up, you give yourself a chance to improve. Every time you take action, you learn something new. You gain experience, discover what works, and identify areas where you can do better. This process of learning and adjustment is what leads to growth. Perfection does not allow for this kind of learning because it assumes that everything should be right from the start. But real improvement comes from trial and error, from making mistakes and learning from them. Showing up also builds consistency. When you make it a habit to show up regularly, you create a rhythm that supports your progress. You no longer rely on feeling ready or being perfect. You simply take action. This consistency is what allows small efforts to accumulate into significant results over time. Perfection, in contrast, often disrupts consistency because it makes it difficult to maintain a high standard every single day. Another important aspect of showing up is that it builds confidence. Confidence is not something you gain by waiting until you are perfect. It is something you develop through action. Each time you show up and do the work, you prove to yourself that you are capable. Even if your performance is not perfect, the act of showing up reinforces your belief in your ability to continue. Over time, this creates a strong sense of self-assurance. Showing up also helps you overcome fear. Fear often arises from uncertainty and the possibility of failure. When you aim for perfection, this fear can become even stronger because the stakes feel higher. You may worry about making mistakes, being judged, or not meeting your own expectation. But when you focus on showing up, you reduce the pressure and make it easier to take action. You accept that mistakes are part of the process and that they do not define your worth or your potential. Another reason showing up matters more than perfection is that it allows you to build momentum. Momentum is created through repeated action. Each time you show up, you add to your progress and make it easier to continue. Even small efforts contribute to this momentum. Perfection, on the other hand, can interrupt momentum because it often leads to delays and hesitation. When you are waiting for everything to be perfect, you are not moving forward. Showing up also helps you stay connected to your goals. When you take action regularly, you keep your goals in focus. You are actively working toward them, which keeps them relevant and important in your mind. Perfection can create distance from your goals because it encourages you to wait rather than act. This can lead to a loss of motivation and a sense of disconnection from what you are trying to achieve. In addition, showing up teaches you discipline. Discipline is the ability to act consistently, regardless of how you feel. It's developed through repeated action, not through perfect performance. Each time you show up, you strengthen your discipline and reinforce your commitment to your goals. This makes it easier to continue showing up in the future. Showing up also allows you to adapt and improve over time. When you take action, you receive feedback. This feedback helps you understand what is working and what needs to change. You can then adjust your approach and improve your performance. Perfection does not allow for this kind of adaptability because it assumes that everything should be right from the beginning. Another important point is that showing up creates opportunities. When you are present and engaged, you are more likely to encounter new possibilities. You may meet people, learn new skills, or discover new paths that you had not considered before. These opportunities often arise from being active and involved, not from waiting for perfection. Showing up also helps you build resilience. There will be days when things do not go as planned, when you feel tired, or when you face challenges. On these days, showing up is even more important. It teaches you to keep going despite difficulty. It builds your ability to handle setbacks and continue moving forward. Perfection does not prepare you for these challenges because it avoids situations where mistakes might occur. Another key benefit of showing up is that it reduces the fear of judgment. When you focus on being perfect, you may become overly concerned with how others perceive you. This can lead to self-doubt and hesitation. But when you focus on showing up, you shift your attention to the process rather than the outcome. You become more focused on your own growth and less concerned with external opinions. Showing up also reinforces your identity. Each time you take action, you are reinforcing the belief that you are someone who is committed and reliable. This identity becomes stronger over time and influences your behavior. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, which makes it easier to continue showing up. Another important aspect is that showing up makes progress more manageable. When you focus on perfection, the task may seem overwhelming because you are trying to achieve a high standard all at once. But when you focus on showing up, you break the process into smaller, more manageable steps. This makes it easier to take action and maintain consistency. Showing up also helps you develop a growth mindset. A growth mindset is the belief that you can improve through effort and learning. When you show up regularly, you embrace the process of growth and accept that mistakes are part of it. Perfection, on the other hand, is often associated with a fixed mindset where mistakes are seen as failures rather than opportunities to learn. Another reason showing up matters more than perfection is that it allows you to make progress even on difficult days. Not every day will be ideal. There will be times when you feel tired, distracted, or unmotivated. On these days, perfection may feel impossible, but showing up is still within your control. Even a small effort is better than no effort. Over time, these small efforts add up and keep you moving forward. Showing up also helps you build trust with others. When you consistently show up, people begin to see you as reliable and dependable. This can strengthen your relationships and create new opportunities. Perfection is not necessary for building trust. Consistency is. Another key point is that showing up helps you stay focused on what truly matters. When you are focused on perfection, you may become distracted by minor details that do not significantly impact your progress. But when you focus on showing up, you prioritize action and progress over perfection. This helps you use your time and energy more effectively. Showing up also encourages persistence. Persistence, the ability to keep going despite challenges and setbacks. It is developed through repeated effort and commitment. Each time you show up, you reinforce your ability to persist. This is essential for achieving long-term goals. Another benefit of showing up is that it creates a sense of accomplishment. Even if your performance is not perfect, the act of showing up and doing the work gives you a sense of progress. This can boost your motivation and encourage you to continue. Showing up also helps you overcome procrastination. Procrastination often occurs when a task feels too difficult or overwhelming. By focusing on showing up rather than being perfect, you lower the barrier to starting. This makes it easier to take the first step, which is often the hardest part. Another important aspect is that showing up allows you to build a body of work over time. Each time you take action, you contribute to your overall progress. These contributions accumulate, leading to significant results. Perfection often delays this process because it focuses on getting everything right before taking action. Showing up also helps you stay grounded in reality. Perfection is often based on unrealistic expectation, while showing up is based on what you can actually do in the present moment. This makes it a more practical and effective approach to achieving your goals. Ultimately, showing up matters more than perfection because it is the foundation of progress. Perfection may seem desirable, but it is often unattainable and can prevent you from taking action. Showing up, however, is always within your control. It allows you to learn, grow, and move forward, one step at a time. Over time, these steps lead to improvement and success, even if they are not perfect. Progress takes time, and trusting the process is one of the most difficult yet essential mindsets to develop when working toward any meaningful goal. In a world where speed is often prioritized and instant results are expected, it can feel frustrating when progress is slow or invisible. Many people begin a journey with enthusiasm, expecting quick improvements and noticeable outcomes. But when those expectations are not met, doubt begins to grow. They start questioning whether their efforts are working, whether they are on the right path, or whether it is even worth continuing. This is where trust in the process becomes critical. Progress is rarely linear. It does not happen in a straight line where each step produces a clear and immediate result. Instead, it often comes in waves, periods of effort followed by plateaus, small improvements followed by setbacks. Sometimes it may even feel like you are not moving forward at all. But beneath the surface, change is happening. Skills are developing, habits are forming, and understanding is deepening. These changes may not be visible right away, but they are building a foundation for future growth. Trusting the process means believing that your efforts will eventually lead to results, even if you cannot see those results immediately. It requires patience and faith in the work you are doing. It is about focusing on the actions you can control rather than constantly worrying about the outcomes you cannot control. When you trust the process, you shift your attention from when will I succeed to am I doing the right things consistently? This shift in focus reduces anxiety and allows you to stay committed to your routine. One of the main reasons people struggle with this idea is because they are conditioned to expect quick rewards. Modern life then provides instant gratification. Information, entertainment, and even small achievements are available almost immediately. This creates an expectation that all progress should be fast. But meaningful growth does not work that way. That way requires time, effort, and repetition. Whether it is building a skill, improving health, or achieving long-term goals, the process involves gradual change. Trusting the process also means accepting that setbacks are part of the journey. No path is without challenges. There will be moments when things do not go as planned, when progress seems to stall, or when mistakes are made. These moments can be discouraging, especially if you are focused only on the end result. But when you trust the process, you see setbacks as opportunities to learn rather than as signs of failure. You understand that each challenge is a step toward improvement. Another important aspect is that progress often happens before results become visible. For example, when someone starts working on their fitness, they may not see immediate changes in their body. However, their strength, endurance, and internal health are improving. These changes are real, even if they are not immediately noticeable. Over time, these internal improvements lead to visible results. This pattern applies to many areas of life. Effort builds beneath the surface before it becomes apparent externally. Trust in the process also helps you stay consistent. When you believe that your actions will eventually pay off, you are more likely to continue taking those actions. Without this belief, it is easy to become discouraged and give up. So consistency is essential for progress, and trust in the process is what allows you to maintain that consistency over time. Another key point is that focusing too much on results can actually slow down progress. When you are constantly checking for results, you may become impatient and frustrated. This can lead to overthinking, stress, and even burnout. On the other hand, when you focus on the process, you are more present in your actions. You pay attention to what you are doing and how you can improve. This leads to better performance and more effective learning. Trusting the process also builds resilience. When you accept that progress takes time, you become more prepared to handle challenges and setbacks. You develop the ability to keep going even when things are difficult. This resilience is essential for long-term success because it allows you to persist through obstacles and continue moving forward. Another important aspect is that trusting the process helps you develop a long-term perspective. Instead of focusing on immediate results, you begin to think about where you want to be in the future. This perspective helps you make better decisions and stay committed to your goals. It also reduces the pressure to achieve quick success, allowing you to focus on sustainable growth. Trusting the process also encourages you to value effort over outcome. Effort is something you can control, while outcomes are influenced by many factors beyond your control. By focusing on effort, you ensure that you are always making progress, regardless of external circumstances. This mindset helps you stay motivated and committed, even when results are slow. Another benefit of trusting the process is that it allows you to enjoy the journey. When you are not constantly focused on the end result, you can appreciate the small wins and improvements along the way. This makes the experience more fulfilling and less stressful. It also helps you stay engaged and interested in what you are doing. Trusting the process also helps you build confidence. Each time you follow through on your actions, you reinforce your belief in your ability to achieve your goals. Over time, this creates a strong sense of self-confidence. You begin to trust yourself and your ability to handle challenges. This confidence is not based on immediate success, but on consistent effort and commitment. Another important point is that progress often requires repetition and practice. Skills are developed through repeated effort, and this takes time. Trusting the process means understanding that each repetition is contributing to your growth. Even if the improvement is small, it is still progress. Over time, these small improvements add up to significant results. Trusting the process also helps you avoid comparison. When you are focused on your own journey, you are less likely to compare yourself to others. Comparison can be discouraging, especially if others seem to be progressing faster. But everyone's journey is different and progress happens at different rates. By trusting your own process, you stay focused on your own growth and avoid unnecessary distractions. Another key aspect is that trusting the process requires discipline. It's not always easy to stay committed when results are not visible. It requires you to continue taking action even when you feel uncertain or discouraged. This discipline is what allows you to stay on track and achieve long-term success. Trusting the process also helps you build habits. When you focus on the actions you need to take, those actions become part of your routine. Over time, they become habits that require less effort to maintain. This makes it easier to stay consistent and continue making progress. Another important point is that progress is often gradual and cumulative. Each action builds on the previous one, creating a chain of effort that leads to results. This cumulative effect is what makes consistent effort so powerful. Trusting the process means believing in this accumulation, even when it is not immediately visible. Trusting the process also helps you manage expectations. Unrealistic expectations can lead to disappointment and frustration. By understanding that progress takes time, you set more realistic expectations for yourself. This reduces stress and helps you stay focused on your actions. Another benefit is that trusting the process allows you to adapt and improve. When you are focused on the process, you are more likely to reflect on your actions and make adjustments. This leads to continuous improvement and better results over time. Trusting the process also helps you stay motivated during difficult times. When you believe that your efforts will eventually pay off, you are more likely to keep going. This belief acts as a source of motivation that is not dependent on immediate results. Another key point is that progress often requires persistence. There will be moments when you feel like giving up, but trusting the process helps you push through those moments. It reminds you that success is not about quick wins, but about sustained effort over time. Trusting the process also helps you develop patience. Patience is the ability to wait for results without becoming frustrated. It is an essential quality for achieving long-term goals. By trusting the process, you learn to be patient and to appreciate the time it takes to grow. Another important aspect is that trusting the process helps you stay focused on what you can control. You cannot control how quickly results appear, but you can control your actions. By focusing on your actions, you ensure that you are always moving forward. Trusting the process also reinforces the idea that growth is a journey, not a destination. There is always more to learn, more to improve, and more to achieve. By embracing the process, you continue to grow and evolve over time. Ultimately, progress takes time, and trusting the process is what allows you to stay committed during that time. It is about believing in your efforts, staying consistent, and continuing to take action even when results are not immediately visible. Over time, this commitment leads to growth, improvement, and success that cannot be achieved through shortcuts or quick fixes. Winners work even when they don't feel like it because they understand that feelings are temporary, but results are built on consistent action. Most people wait for the right mood, the right energy, or the right mindset before they begin. They rely on motivation to push them forward. But winners operate differently. They don't depend on how they feel in the moment. They act based on commitment, responsibility, and a clear understanding of what needs to be done. Every day brings a different emotional state. Some days you feel energized, focused, and ready to take on challenges. Other days you feel tired, distracted, or unmotivated. These fluctuations are normal, but they can become a major obstacle if you allow them to control your actions. If you only work when you feel like it, your effort will always be inconsistent. You will make progress on good days and lose momentum on bad days. This inconsistency prevents long-term growth. Winners recognize this pattern and choose to break it. They understand that waiting to feel ready is a losing strategy. Instead, they develop the ability to take action regardless of their emotional state. They accept that there will be days when they don't feel like working, but they do it anyway. This ability to act despite discomfort is what sets them apart. One of the key reasons winners work even when they don't feel like it is because they have a strong sense of purpose. They know why they are doing what they are doing. Their goals are clear, and they understand the importance of their effort. This sense of purpose gives them direction and helps them stay focused, even when their motivation is low. It acts as a guiding force that keeps them moving forward. Another important factor is discipline. Discipline is the ability to do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. It is not about forcing yourself in a harsh or negative way, but about creating a standard for your behavior. Winners develop discipline through repetition and consistency. Each time they choose to work, despite not feeling like it, they strengthen this discipline. Over time, it becomes a natural part of who they are. Winners also understand the importance of momentum. Momentum is built through consistent action, and it makes it easier to keep going. When you stop working because you don't feel like it, you break that momentum. Starting again becomes harder, and resistance increases. But when you continue working, even on difficult days, you maintain your momentum. This makes it easier to stay on track and continue progressing. Another reason winners push through their feelings is that they focus on long-term results rather than short-term comfort. Not feeling like working is often a desire for immediate comfort, rest, distraction, or ease. While these may feel good in the moment, they do not contribute to long-term success. Winners are willing to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term gain. They understand that the effort they put in today will create results in the future. Winners also have a different relationship with discomfort. They do not see discomfort as something to avoid, but as something to embrace. They understand that growth often happens outside of their comfort zone. When they feel resistance, they see it as a sign that they are pushing themselves in the right direction. This mindset allows them to continue working even when it feels difficult. Another important aspect is that winners build habits that support their success. When you work consistently, your actions become habits. These habits reduce the need for decision-making and make it easier to take action. Instead of asking, do I feel like doing this? The question becomes irrelevant. The action is simply part of your routine. This is why winners can maintain consistency even when their motivation is low. Winners also understand that feelings can be misleading. Just because you don't feel like doing something does not mean it's not important. In fact, the tasks that feel the most difficult are often the ones that matter the most. Winners learn to separate their feelings from their actions. They acknowledge their emotions but do not allow them to dictate their behavior. Another reason winners keep working is that they have experienced the benefits of consistency. They know that showing up regularly leads to progress. They have seen how small, consistent efforts add up over time. This experience reinforces their belief in the process and makes it easier for them to continue, even when they don't feel like it. Winners also build mental toughness. Mental toughness is the ability to stay focused and committed in the face of challenge. It is developed through repeated exposure to difficult situations. Each time a winner chooses to work despite not feeling like it, they strengthen their mental toughness. Over time, they become more resilient and better equipped to handle challenges. Another key factor is accountability. Winners often hold themselves accountable to their goals. They set standards and expectations for their behavior and take responsibility for meeting them. This accountability helps them stay consistent even when their feelings are not aligned with their goals. Winners also understand that progress is not always visible. There will be times when it feels like their efforts are not making a difference. During these times, it can be tempting to stop. But winners trust the process. They believe that their efforts will eventually lead to results, even if those results are not immediately apparent. This belief helps them continue working, even when they don't feel like it. Another important point is that winners focus on action rather than emotion. They understand that action leads to results, while emotion is temporary. By focusing on what they can do rather than how they feel, they maintain control over their progress. This shift in focus is crucial for maintaining consistency. Winners also develop a strong work ethic. A strong work ethic is built on the belief that effort is necessary for success. It is reinforced through consistent action and commitment. When you work regularly, even on days when you don't feel like it, you strengthen your work ethic. This becomes a defining characteristic that supports your success. Another reason winners keep going is that they value discipline over motivation. Motivation is unreliable and short-lived, while discipline is consistent and dependable. Winners understand that motivation may not always be present, but discipline can carry them through. This allows them to maintain their progress regardless of their emotional state. Winners also recognize that every day matters. Each day is an opportunity to make progress. Even a small effort is better than no effort. By working every day, they ensure that they are always moving forward. This cumulative effort leads to significant results over time. Another key aspect is that winners learn to manage their energy. They understand that they may not always feel at their best, but they still find ways to be productive. They adjust their approach based on their energy levels, but they do not stop completely. This flexibility allows them to stay consistent while avoiding burnout. Winners also develop a sense of responsibility toward their goals. They see their goals as commitments that must be honored. This sense of responsibility drives them to take action, even when they don't feel like it. It creates a level of seriousness that supports their consistency. Another important factor is that winners focus on progress, not perfection. They understand that not every effort will be perfect, but that does not matter. What matters is that they are taking action. This mindset reduces pressure and makes it easier to keep going. Winners also learn to push through resistance. Resistance, the internal force that makes tasks feel difficult. It often appears as procrastination or avoidance. Winners do not ignore this resistance, but they do not let it stop them. They push through it and take action anyway. Another reason winners work even when they don't feel like it is that they have a clear vision of their future. They know what they are working toward, and this vision motivates them to keep going. Even when they feel tired or unmotivated, they remember their long-term goals and continue working. I've seen someone. Winners also understand that success is not about doing something occasionally, but about doing it consistently. They know that sporadic effort will not lead to meaningful results. This understanding reinforces their commitment to working regularly. Another important point is that winners build routines that support their goals. Routines create structure and make it easier to stay consistent. When something is part of your routine, you are more likely to do it, regardless of how you feel. Winners also learn to control their environment. They create conditions that support their productivity and reduce distraction. This makes it easier for them to take action, even when they don't feel like it. Another key aspect is that winners develop patience. They understand that results take time and that consistent effort is required. This patience helps them stay committed, even when progress is slow. Winners also recognize that feelings often follow action. When you start working, even if you don't feel like it, your mindset can shift. You may begin to feel more focused and engaged. This is why taking the first step is so important. Another important factor is that winners build self-respect. Each time they follow through on their commitments, they reinforce their sense of reliability. This builds confidence and strengthens their identity as someone who gets things done. Ultimately, winners work even when they don't feel like it, because they understand that success is built on consistent action, not temporary emotion. They choose discipline over comfort, commitment over convenience, and long-term results over short-term feelings. This mindset allows them to keep going, even on the hardest days, and it is what enables them to achieve their goals over time. Habits shape your future because the actions you repeat daily gradually define who you become, what you achieve, and the direction your life takes. Every habit, no matter how small it seems, contributes to a larger pattern of behavior. These patterns, when repeated over time, form the foundation of your identity and determine your outcomes. What you consistently do matters far more than what you occasionally do, because consistency creates lasting impact. At the core of habits is repetition. When you perform an action repeatedly, your brain begins to automate it. This means the behavior requires less effort, less decision-making, and less willpower. Over time, habits become part of your routine, something you do without thinking. This automation is powerful because it allows you to maintain consistent behavior without constantly relying on motivation or discipline. Instead of forcing yourself to act, you naturally follow patterns that have already been established. The future is not built in a single moment. It is built through daily choices. Each decision you make, each action you take adds to the trajectory of your life. If your daily habits are aligned with your goals, you move closer to achieving them. If they are not, you move further away. This process is often subtle and gradual, which is why many people underestimate its importance. They focus on big decisions while overlooking the small, repeated actions that truly shape their future. The things you do regularly become part of how you see yourself. For example, if you read every day, you begin to identify as a reader. If you exercise regularly, you begin to see yourself as someone who values health and fitness. This identity then reinforces your behavior, creating a cycle where your actions and beliefs support each other. Over time, this cycle becomes stronger, making it easier to maintain positive habits. One of the most important aspects of habits is their cumulative effect. A single action may not seem significant, but when repeated consistently, it can lead to major changes. This is often referred to as the compounding effect. Just as small financial investments can grow over time, small habits can lead to significant personal growth. The key is consistency. Without consistency, habits cannot form, and their impact remains limited. Habits also determine how you respond to challenges. When you face difficulties, your habits guide your actions. If you have developed habits of persistent, discipline, and problem solving, you are more likely to handle challenges effectively. On the other hand, if your habits involve avoidance or procrastination, you may struggle to overcome obstacles. In this way, habits act as a framework that shapes your behavior in both good times and bad. Another important point is that habits reduce the need for constant decision-making. Every day you are faced with numerous choices. Making decisions requires mental energy, and this energy is limited. When you rely on habits, you eliminate the need to decide repeatedly. Your actions become automatic, freeing up mental energy for more important tasks. This efficiency allows you to focus on higher level thinking and more complex challenges. Habits also play a crucial role in productivity. When you establish productive habits, you create a structure that supports your goals. For example, setting a regular time to work on a task ensures that progress is made consistently. This structure reduces procrastination and increases efficiency. Over time, these productive habits lead to significant achievements. Another key aspect is that habits influence your environment. The actions you repeat often shape the spaces and situations around you. For example, if you have a habit of staying organized, your environment will reflect that. If you have a habit of learning, you may surround yourself with books, resources, and opportunities for growth. This environment then reinforces your habits, creating a positive feedback loop. Habits also affect your mindset. The way you think is influenced by what you do regularly. Positive habits can lead to a more optimistic and growth-oriented mindset, while negative habits can reinforce limiting beliefs. For example, if you have a habit of reflecting on your progress and learning from your experience, you are more likely to develop a mindset that embraces growth. This mindset then supports further positive behavior. It is also important to understand that habits can work both for and against you. Positive habits can lead to growth and success, while negative habits can hold you back. The challenge is that negative habits often feel easier or more comfortable in the short term. They may provide immediate satisfaction, but they do not contribute to long-term progress. Recognizing this difference is essential for making better choices. Habits also require time to develop. They do not form overnight. Building a new habit involves repetition, consistency, and patience. In the beginning, it may feel difficult or unnatural. But with time and practice, the behavior becomes more automatic. This process requires commitment, as there will be moments when you feel like giving up. However, the long-term benefits make the effort worthwhile. Another important point is that small changes in habits can lead to significant results. You do not need to make drastic changes to improve your future. Even small adjustments, when applied consistently, can have a big impact. For example, improving your daily routine by just a small percentage can lead to noticeable changes over time. This concept highlights the power of incremental improvement. Habits also help you maintain consistency during periods of low motivation. Motivation is often unpredictable and short-lived. There will be days when you do not feel like taking action. During these times, habits provide a structure that keeps you moving forward. Because the behavior is automatic, you are more likely to continue even when your motivation is low. Another key benefit of habits is that they create stability. When your actions are consistent, your progress becomes more predictable. You know that if you continue following your habits, you will eventually see results. This stability reduces uncertainty and makes it easier to stay committed to your goals. Habits also influence your long-term success. Success is not determined by occasional efforts or one-time achievements. It is the result of consistent behavior over time. By focusing on building positive habits, you create a foundation for sustained success. This approach is more reliable than relying on bursts of motivation or temporary effort. Another important aspect is that habits can be changed. While existing habits may feel deeply ingrained, they are not permanent. With awareness and effort, you can replace negative habits with positive ones. This process involves identifying the behaviors you want to change, understanding the triggers behind them, and gradually introducing new patterns. Over time, these new habits can reshape your behavior and your future. Habits also help you build discipline. Discipline is the ability to act consistently regardless of how you feel. When you develop habits, you reinforce this discipline. Each time you follow through on a habit, you strengthen your ability to stay committed. This makes it easier to maintain consistency and achieve your goals. Another key point is that habits influence your relationships. The way you interact with others is shaped by your habitual behavior. Positive habits, such as communication, empathy, and reliability, can strengthen relationships. Negative habits, such as neglect or inconsistency, can weaken them. This shows that habits not only shape your personal success, but also your social connections. Habits also affect your health. Daily choices related to diet, exercise, sleep, and stress management have a significant impact on your well-being. These choices, when repeated over time, determine your physical and mental health. By developing healthy habits, you invest in your long-term well-being. Another important aspect is that habits create a sense of identity and purpose. When your actions are aligned with your values and goals, you feel more fulfilled. You see yourself as someone who is working towards something meaningful. This sense of purpose motivates you to continue and reinforces your commitment. Habits also make it easier to achieve complex goals. Large goals can feel overwhelming, but when broken down into smaller, habitual actions, they become more manageable. Each habit represents a step toward your goal, and over time, these steps lead to completion. Another benefit is that habits reduce stress. When you have a clear routine and consistent behavior, you eliminate uncertainty and confusion. This creates a sense of control and stability, which can reduce stress and improve your overall well-being. Habits also help you stay focused. In a world full of distractions, it is easy to lose track of your goals. Habits provide a structure that keeps you aligned with your priorities. They act as a guide, helping you stay on track and avoid distraction. Another important point is that habits influence your future opportunity. The skills you develop, the knowledge you gain, and the relationships you build are all shaped by your habits. These factors determine the opportunities available to you. By building positive habits, you increase your chances of success and open new doors. Ultimately, habits shape your future because they define your daily actions, and your daily actions determine your long-term outcomes. Each habit is like a small building block that contributes to the larger structure of your life. Over time, these blocks come together to create the person you become and the life you live. By focusing on developing positive habits and maintaining consistency, you take control of your future and create a path toward growth, success, and fulfillment. Excuses destroy consistency because they interrupt action, weaken discipline, and create a pattern of avoidance that slowly replaces progress with stagnation. Every time you make an excuse, you are not just explaining why something did not happen. You are training your mind to accept inaction as normal. Over time, this creates a mindset where effort is optional, responsibility is flexible, and goals become something you talk about rather than something you work toward. At the core of excuses is avoidance. When a task feels difficult, uncomfortable, or inconvenient, the mind looks for a way to escape it. Instead of confronting the challenge, it creates a reason to delay or skip it. These reasons can sound logical on the surface, being tired, not having enough time, waiting for the right moment, or needing better conditions, but underneath, they often serve the same purpose, avoiding discomfort. The problem is that growth always requires discomfort. So every excuse becomes a barrier between you and your progress. Consistency, on the other hand, depends on action without interruption. It is built on showing up repeatedly, regardless of conditions or feelings. When excuses enter the picture, they break this rhythm. Even a single excuse can disrupt momentum. Once momentum is broken, restarting becomes harder, and the likelihood of repeating the excuse increases. This creates a cycle where inconsistency becomes the norm instead of the exception. One of the most dangerous aspects of excuses is that they feel justified. They rarely present themselves as laziness or avoidance. Instead, they appear as reasonable explanations. For example, instead of saying I didn't work because I avoided it, the mind says I didn't work because I was too busy, or I will start tomorrow when things are better. These explanations reduce guilt in the short term, but they increase long-term consequences. They make inaction feel acceptable, which reduces the urgency to change. Excuses also distort self-perception. Every time you make an excuse, you reinforce a belief about yourself. You begin to see yourself as someone who cannot act under certain conditions. You might start believing that you are not disciplined enough, not motivated enough, or not capable enough. These beliefs are not based on reality. They are based on repeated patterns of avoidance. Over time, these beliefs become self-fulfilling because what you believe about yourself influences how you behave. Consistency requires ownership, while excuses shift responsibility. When you are consistent, you take full responsibility for your actions and outcomes. You accept that even if conditions are not perfect, you still have control over your response. Excuses remove that responsibility by placing the cause of inaction outside yourself. This might feel relieving in the moment, but it weakens your ability to influence your own life. Another major issue with excuses is that they delay progress indefinitely. Most excuses are not final statements. They are postponements. We'll start tomorrow. I will do it when I have more time. Or I will begin when I feel ready. All sound temporary, but they often become permanent delays. Tomorrow turns into next week turns into next month, and eventually the goal fades entirely. Consistency cannot survive in a system of constant delay. Excuses also weaken discipline. Discipline is built through repeated action, especially during moments when you do not feel like acting. Each time you override discomfort and take action anyway, you strengthen your discipline. But every excuse interrupts this process. Instead of building discipline, you reinforce avoidance. Over time, this makes it harder to take action because your mind becomes trained to escape effort instead of engaging with it. Another important impact of excuses is the loss of momentum. Momentum is created when actions are repeated continuously over time. It gives you energy, focus, and a sense of progress. Excuses break this continuity. Once momentum is lost, restarting requires more effort than maintaining consistency in the first place. This is why people often find it difficult to return to routines after taking a break caused by excuses. Excuses also reduce accountability. When you stop holding yourself responsible for your actions, your standards begin to drop. You become more tolerant of missed goals, skipped tasks, and unfinished plans. Over time, this lowers your expectations of yourself. Instead of aiming for consistent improvement, you settle into a pattern of occasional effort followed by justification for inaction. Another hidden effect of excuses is that they create internal conflict. Deep down, you know what you should be doing. When you avoid it through excuses, there's a disconnect between your actions and your awareness. This creates frustration, guilt, and dissatisfaction. Even if excuses temporarily protect you from discomfort, they eventually lead to a sense of regret because you are not aligned with your own goals. Excuses also affect identity. Your identity is shaped by what you repeatedly do and allow. If you consistently make excuses, you begin to see yourself as someone who struggles with discipline or follow through. This identity then influences future behavior, making it even easier to continue making excuses. In this way, excuses do not just affect your actions. They shape the kind of person you believe you are. Consistency requires clarity, while excuses thrive in confusion. When your goals are clear and your priorities are defined, it is easier to take action. But excuses often arise when there's uncertainty or lack of structure. The mind uses confusion as an opportunity to delay action. Without clarity, it becomes easier to justify inaction. This is why clear goals and structured routines are essential for reducing excuses. Another important aspect is that excuses often rely on short-term thinking. They prioritize immediate comfort over long-term success. For example, skipping a workout may feel comfortable in the moment, but it undermines long-term health goals. Avoiding study may feel relaxing temporarily, but it weakens future performance. Excuses choose the present feeling over future results, which is why they consistently lead to regret. Excuses also weaken self-trust. Every time you break a commitment to yourself, even with a valid sounding reason, you reduce your belief in your own reliability. Over time, this makes it harder to trust yourself to follow through. Without self-trust, consistency becomes difficult because you no longer believe that your actions will match your intentions. Another key issue is that excuses are repetitive. Once you allow one excuse, it becomes easier to allow another. The mind learns that avoiding effort is acceptable, and it begins to generate excuses more frequently. This repetition creates a habit of avoidance, which directly opposes the habit of consistency. In this way, excuses and consistency cannot coexist for long. Excuses also reduce growth opportunity. Every challenge you avoid is a missed opportunity to learn, improve, or develop resilience. While excuses may protect you from discomfort, they also protect you from progress. Growth requires exposure to difficulty, and excuses remove that exposure. Another important point is that excuses often disguise fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of discomfort can all lead to excuses. Instead of acknowledging fear directly, the mind creates external reasons for avoidance. But by doing this repeatedly, you never learn how to face fear, and it continues to control your actions. Consistency, in contrast, is built by confronting these fears through action. Each time you choose to act instead of excuse, you weaken fear's influence over your behavior. This builds courage, resilience, and confidence. Excuses also affect productivity. When you rely on excuses, tasks are delayed, incomplete, or rushed. This reduces the quality of your output and creates unnecessary stress. Over time, this pattern leads to a cycle of procrastination and pressure, where work is constantly postponed and then rushed at the last moment. Another important effect is that excuses reduce discipline in other areas of life as well. Because habits are interconnected, allowing excuses in one area often leads to inconsistency in others. For example, making excuses about exercise can spill over into work habits, study habits, or personal goals. This creates widespread inconsistency. Excuses also weaken long-term vision. When you constantly justify inaction, you lose sight of your bigger goals. The focus shifts from what I want to achieve to why I cannot do it today. This shift slowly disconnects you from your ambition and reduces motivation over time. Ultimately, excuses destroy consistency because they replace action with justification, responsibility with avoidance, and progress with delay. They may feel harmless in the moment, but their long-term effect is powerful and destructive. Consistency requires ownership, discipline, and repeated action, while excuses interrupt all three. When excuses are removed, consistency becomes possible. When they are allowed to grow, progress slowly disappears. Focus on long-term goals, not quick wins, because real success is not built in moments of excitement or bursts of temporary effort, but through sustained commitment to something that takes time to grow. Quick wins feel satisfying, they give instant feedback, and they create a sense of progress. But they are often shallow and short-lived. Long-term goals, on the other hand, require patience, discipline, and the ability to stay committed even when results are not immediately visible. This difference is what separates temporary from lasting success. When people focus too much on quick wins, they begin to prioritize speed over depth. They look for the fastest way to get results, even if those results are not meaningful or sustainable. This mindset can lead to shortcuts, inconsistency, and a lack of true development. Quick wins often give the illusion of progress, but they do not always build the foundation needed for long-term success. Without a strong foundation, progress becomes fragile and easily lost. Long-term goals require a different mindset. They require you to think beyond immediate satisfaction and focus on where you want to be in the future. This means accepting that the process may be slow, difficult, and sometimes discouraging. It means understanding that progress will not always be visible and that effort does not always lead to immediate reward. But over time, consistent effort toward a long-term goal creates results that are far more meaningful than any quick win. One of the key reasons long-term goals are more powerful is because they force you to develop discipline. When you are working towards something that takes time, you cannot rely on motivation alone. Motivation fades quickly, especially when results are not immediate. Discipline, however, allows you to continue working even when motivation disappears. It keeps you focused on the process rather than the reward. This is essential for achieving anything significant. Another important aspect of long-term goals is that they build patience. In a world that values instant results, patience has become rare. But patience is essential for meaningful growth. When you focus on long-term goals, you learn to tolerate delays, setbacks, and slow progress. You begin to understand that growth takes time and that rushing the process often leads to poor results. Patience allows you to stay calm and consistent, even when things are not moving as quickly as you would like. Long-term goals also help you develop resilience. When you are committed to something over a long period, you inevitably face challenges. There will be moments of doubt, frustration, and failure. Quick win thinking often leads people to quit when they encounter difficulty. But long-term thinking encourages persistence. It helps you view challenges as part of the journey rather than as reasons to stop. This resilience is what allows you to continue moving forward despite obstacles. Another key benefit of focusing on long-term goals is that it improves decision-making. When your attention is on short-term gains, you may make choices that feel good in the moment, but are not beneficial in the long run. For example, skipping important work for immediate comfort may feel rewarding temporarily, but can harm your progress over time. Long-term thinking encourages you to evaluate decisions based on their future impact rather than their immediate effect. This leads to smarter, more strategic choices. Long-term goals also help you build deeper skill. Quick wins often involve surface-level effort that produces temporary results. But long-term goals require repeated practice and continuous improvement. This repetition allows you to develop mastery over time. Skills become stronger, understanding becomes deeper, and performance becomes more refined. This level of growth cannot be achieved through short-term efforts alone. Another important point is that long-term goals create direction and purpose. When you have a clear long-term vision, your actions become more meaningful. You are not just working for immediate reward, you are building towards something larger. This sense of purpose provides motivation even when progress feels slow. It gives you a reason to continue, even when quick results are not visible. Focusing on long-term goals also reduces stress. When you are constantly chasing quick wins, you may feel pressured to achieve results immediately. This can create anxiety and frustration, especially when things do not go as planned. Long-term thinking shifts your focus away from immediate outcomes and toward consistent effort. This reduces pressure and allows you to focus more on the process. Another important aspect is that long-term goals encourage consistency. When you are committed to something over a long period, you are more likely to develop routines and habits that support that goal. These habits become part of your daily life, making progress more stable and predictable. Quick wins, on the other hand, often lead to inconsistent effort because they are based on short bursts of motivation. Long-term thinking also helps you build identity. When you consistently work toward a long-term goal, you begin to see yourself differently. You start identifying with the type of person who is committed, disciplined, and focused. This identity reinforces your behavior and makes it easier to stay on track. For example, if you are working toward becoming skilled in a field, over time you begin to see yourself as someone who is capable in that area. Another key benefit of focusing on long-term goals is that it allows for compounding progress. Small efforts may not seem significant in the moment, but over time they accumulate and multiply. This compounding effect is powerful because it transforms small actions into significant results. Quick wins often ignore this principle because they focus on immediate outcomes rather than gradual accumulation. Long-term goals also help you develop emotional stability. When you are not constantly chasing immediate results, you become less affected by short-term fluctuation. You are less likely to feel discouraged by temporary setbacks or overly excited by temporary success. Instead, you maintain a steady mindset focused on continuous improvement. Another important point is that long-term goals require commitment. Commitment means sticking to your goal even when it becomes difficult or inconvenient. It means continuing to work even when progress is slow or invisible. This level of commitment builds character and strengthens your ability to handle challenges. Long-term goals also encourage reflection and learning. When you are working on something over a long period, you have time to evaluate your progress, learn from mistakes, and make adjustments. This continuous learning process leads to improvement and refinement over time. Another benefit is that long-term goals reduce impulsive behavior. When you are focused on quick wins, you may be tempted to make impulsive decisions that provide immediate satisfaction. But long-term thinking encourages you to consider the consequences of your actions more carefully. This leads to better judgment and more thoughtful behavior. Long-term goals also help you build endurance. Endurance is the ability to sustain effort over time. This is essential for achieving meaningful success. Without endurance, you may start strong but struggle to finish. Long-term thinking helps you develop the ability to keep going even when the journey becomes difficult. Another important aspect is that long-term goals create lasting satisfaction. Growth happens outside your comfort zone because comfort is designed for safety, repetition, and predictability, while growth requires challenge, uncertainty, and change. The comfort zone is a mental and emotional space where things feel familiar and easy. It is where you know what to expect, where risks are minimal, and where effort is not demanding. While this space feels secure, it does not encourage development. In fact, staying too long in comfort often leads to stagnation because nothing new is required of you. Growth begins the moment you step into discomfort. Discomfort appears when you try something new, when you push your limits, or when you face situations that challenge your current abilities. This feeling of unease is not a sign that something is wrong. Rather, it is a signal that you are entering a space where learning and development are possible. Many people misunderstand discomfort and interpret it as a reason to stop. But in reality, it is often the clearest indication that progress is happening. When you stay inside your comfort zone, your actions become repetitive. You do the same things, think the same thoughts, and follow the same routines. While this can feel stable, it limits your exposure to new experiences. Without new experiences, there is no opportunity for improvement. Growth requires exposure to unfamiliar situations because these situations force you to adapt, learn, and expand your capabilities. One of the main reasons growth happens outside the comfort zone is because learning requires effort. When you are comfortable, your actions are automatic and require little mental strain. But when you step into unfamiliar territory, your brain is forced to engage more actively. You must think differently, solve problems, and adjust your behavior. This mental effort is what leads to new skills and understanding. Without this challenge, learning remains shallow. Another important aspect is that discomfort builds resilience. Each time you face something challenging and continue despite the difficulty, you strengthen your ability to handle pressure. This resilience is essential for long-term success because life is full of unpredictable situations. If you avoid discomfort, you limit your ability to cope with challenges. But when you embrace it, you become stronger and more adaptable. Growth outside the comfort zone also builds confidence. Confidence does not come from staying where things are easy. It comes from overcoming difficulty. Every time you push through discomfort and succeed, even in a small way, you reinforce the belief that you are capable. This belief grows stronger with each experience. Over time, you begin to trust yourself more because you have evidence of your ability to handle challenges. Another key reason growth requires discomfort is that it exposes your weaknesses. Inside the comfort zone, your limitations are often hidden because you are not being challenged. But when you step outside it, those limitations become visible. While this can feel uncomfortable, it's actually beneficial because awareness is the first step toward improvement. Once you recognize your weaknesses, you can work on them and turn them into strengths. Discomfort also plays a role in developing discipline. Discipline is the ability to continue acting despite resistance. When you are outside your comfort zone, resistance naturally increases. You may feel hesitation, fear, or doubt. But if you continue to act despite these feelings, you strengthen your discipline. Over time, this makes it easier to take action even in difficult situations. Another important point is that growth requires experimentation. You cannot improve without trying new things. The comfort zone limits experimentation because it encourages familiar behavior. But outside of it, you are forced to explore different approaches. Some of these attempts may fail, but failure is part of the learning process. Each failure provides feedback that helps you improve. Without stepping outside your comfort zone, you miss out on this valuable learning process. Growth also requires adaptability, and adaptability is developed through exposure to change. When you remain in a predictable environment, your ability to adapt remains limited. But when you enter unfamiliar situations, you are forced to adjust your thinking and behavior. This flexibility is essential for success in any area of life because conditions are constantly changing. Another important aspect is that discomfort helps you break limiting beliefs. Many people stay within their comfort zone because they believe they are not capable of doing more. These beliefs are often based on past experiences or fear rather than actual ability. When you step outside your comfort zone and succeed, even in small ways, you begin to challenge and change these beliefs. This shift in mindset opens the door to further growth. Growth outside the comfort zone also builds mental strength. Facing challenges requires persistence and emotional control. It teaches you how to handle stress, uncertainty, and pressure. Each time you push through discomfort, you become mentally stronger. This strength is essential for achieving long-term goals because the journey is rarely easy. Another key point is that comfort can create complacency. When things are easy and predictable, there's little motivation to improve. You may feel satisfied with your current level and avoid taking risks. While this may feel pleasant in the short term, it limits your potential in the long run. Growth requires dissatisfaction with the current state and a willingness to pursue something better. Discomfort also accelerates learning. When you are challenged, your brain pays more attention. And becomes more engaged. This heightened awareness improves learning speed and retention. We're more likely to remember lessons learned through difficulty than those learned in comfort. This is because emotional and mental engagement strengthens memory. Another important aspect is that stepping outside your comfort zone expands your capabilities. Each time you take on a new challenge, you add to your skill set. Over time, these new skills accumulate, making you more capable and versatile. This expansion of ability increases your opportunities and potential for success. Growth also requires persistence, and persistence tested outside the comfort zone. When things become difficult, there is a natural tendency to stop. But those who continue despite discomfort are the ones who experience growth. Persistence builds character and ensures that effort is not wasted. Another important point is that discomfort often leads to breakthroughs. Many significant achievements happen after periods of struggle. When you push through difficulty, you reach new levels of understanding and performance. These breakthroughs are not possible without first experiencing discomfort. Growth outside the comfort zone also improves decision-making. When you are exposed to new situations, you learn how to evaluate risks and make better choices. This experience helps you become more confident in your decisions over time. Another key aspect is that discomfort helps you discover your true potential. You often do not know what you are capable of until you are challenged. The comfort zone limits this discovery because it keeps you within familiar boundaries. But when you step outside it, you begin to realize that you are capable of more than you previously thought. Growth also requires courage. Courage is the willingness to act despite fear. Fear is a natural response to uncertainty and challenge. When you move forward despite fear, you open yourself to growth opportunities. Courage is developed through repeated exposure to uncomfortable situations. Another important point is that discomfort builds character. It shapes your attitude, your work ethic, and your mindset. People who regularly step outside their comfort zone tend to develop stronger character traits such as resilience, determination, and confidence. Growth outside the comfort zone also increases creativity. When you are forced to think in new ways, you develop creative solutions to problems. Comfort, on the other hand, limits creativity because it encourages routine thinking. Another key benefit is that discomfort helps you stay competitive in any field. Those who are willing to challenge themselves and grow will eventually surpass those who remain comfortable. Continuous improvement is necessary to stay relevant and successful. Growth also requires sacrifice. Stepping outside your comfort zone often means giving up ease, familiarity, and short-term comfort. But these sacrifices are necessary for long-term success. Without them, growth is limited. Another important aspect is that discomfort teaches patience. Progress outside the comfort zone is often slow and difficult. This teaches you to stay patient and trust the process. Even when results are not immediate, ultimately growth happens outside the comfort zone because it is the only place where learning, adaptation, and transformation occur. Comfort provides stability, but discomfort provides development. By choosing to step beyond what is easy and familiar, you create opportunities for improvement, strength, and long-term success that cannot be achieved within the boundaries of comfort. Stay committed even without results because real progress is often invisible in the beginning and success is rarely immediate. Many people start something new with high expectation. They put in effort, They stay excited for a short time, and they expect to see quick changes. When results don't appear fast enough, they begin to doubt themselves. This doubt slowly turns into frustration, and frustration often leads to quitting. The problem is not lack of ability. It is lack of patience and commitment during the invisible stage of growth. Every meaningful goal has a delay between effort and outcome. This delay is where most people fail. You can be doing everything right, working hard, staying consistent, learning, improving, and still not see visible results for a while. This is because growth often happens beneath the surface before it shows on the outside. Just like a seed planted in the ground does not immediately become a tree. Your efforts require time to develop into results. During this hidden phase, nothing looks impressive, but everything important is happening internally. Staying committed without results requires understanding that effort is not wasted just because it is not yet visible. Every action you take builds something: skill, discipline, experience, and mental strength. These things accumulate over time. Even if you cannot see the outcome yet, you are still building the foundation that will eventually support success. The mistake many people make is assuming that no visible progress means no progress at all. One of the main reasons people lose commitment is because they rely too heavily on external validation. They want quick feedback that tells them they are on the right path. When that feedback does not come, they assume something is wrong. But not all progress is immediately measurable. Some improvements take time to show. For example, when learning a new skill, the early stages often feel slow and confusing. But behind that confusion, your brain is forming new connections and adapting to new patterns. Commitment without results is a test of patience. It challenges your ability to continue even when motivation fades. Motivation is usually high at the beginning of a journey, but it decreases when reality becomes difficult and results are slow. This is the point where commitment becomes important. Commitment is not based on emotion. It is based on decision. It is the decision to continue regardless of what you see or feel in the moment. Another important aspect is that results are not always immediate because growth is cumulative. Small actions add up over time, but the impact of those actions are not always visible right away. For example, improving your skills by a small percentage each day may not feel significant in the moment. But over weeks and months, these small improvements compound into noticeable progress. The key is consistency during the period when results are not yet visible. Staying committed without results also builds mental strength. When you continue working despite not seeing immediate rewards, you develop resilience. You learn how to handle uncertainty, frustration, and doubt. This mental strength becomes valuable later because it prepares you for bigger challenges. If you can stay committed during the invisible phase of growth, you are more likely to succeed when things become more demanding. Another key reason commitment matters more than immediate results is because results can be misleading in the short term. Sometimes effort does not produce immediate visible change, but that does not mean it is ineffective. Conversely, sometimes people experience quick success that does not last. This is why focusing only on results can be dangerous. Commitment ensures that you stay focused on the process rather than temporary outcomes. Many people quit just before they are about to see progress. This happens because the early phase of any goal is the hardest. You are learning, adjusting, and struggling without clear signs of improvement. If you stop during this phase, you never reach the point where results begin to appear. Commitment ensures that you push through this phase long enough to experience real growth. Another important point is that results often lag behind effort. There is always a delay between what you do and what you see. This delay can create doubt, but it is a natural part of any growth process. Understanding this helps you stay patient. Instead of expecting immediate results, you begin to trust that your effort will eventually catch up with visible outcomes. Commitment without results also strengthens discipline. Discipline is built when you continue acting even when there is no immediate reward. Each time you choose to keep going despite not seeing progress, you reinforce your ability to stay consistent. Over time, this becomes a habit. You no longer need external motivation because your behavior is guided by discipline. Another important aspect is that invisible progress often matters more than visible progress. while external results are important. Internal development is what sustains long-term success. Skills, mindset, habits, and resilience all develop during periods where results are not obvious. These internal changes eventually lead to external success. Staying committed also helps you overcome emotional fluctuation. When results are slow, it is easy to feel discouraged. But commitment allows you to stay grounded. It gives you stability during uncertain times. Instead of reacting emotionally to the lack of results, you continue following your plan and trusting the process. Another key benefit of commitment without results is that it builds confidence over time. True confidence does not come from quick wins, but from persistence. When you continue working despite not seeing immediate outcomes, you prove to yourself that you are capable of staying consistent. This self-trust becomes the foundation of real confidence. Commitment also helps you avoid comparison. When results are slow, it is easy to compare yourself to others who may appear more successful. But these comparisons are often misleading because you do not see the full picture of their journey. Staying committed keeps your focus on your own progress rather than external benchmarks. Another important point is that commitment develops patience. Patience is essential for long-term success because most meaningful goals take time. Without patience, you may give up too early. But when you stay committed, you learn to tolerate delays and trust that progress is happening, even if it is not immediately visible. Commitment without results also strengthens identity. When you continue working consistently, you begin to see yourself as someone who does not quit easily. This identity becomes powerful because it influences your future behavior. You act in alignment with who you believe you are becoming. Another key aspect is that results often come suddenly after a long period of slow progress. This creates the illusion of sudden success, but in reality, it is the result of consistent effort over time. Staying committed ensures that you reach the point where this shift happens. Commitment also helps you build endurance. Endurance is the ability to sustain effort over a long period, especially when results are delayed. This ability is crucial for achieving anything meaningful because real success is not short-term. It requires long-term persistence. Another important factor is that commitment reduces the temptation to quit. When you are committed, quitting is not an option based on temporary feelings. You continue regardless of emotional ups and downs. This creates stability in your actions and ensures that progress continues even during difficult periods. Commitment without results also teaches humility. It reminds you that growth takes time and effort. It prevents overconfidence based on short-term expectations and helps you stay grounded in the process. Another key point is that commitment builds trust in the process. Over time, you begin to understand that consistent effort eventually leads to results. This trust becomes a powerful motivator that keeps you going even when progress feels slow. Ultimately, staying committed even without results is about believing in delayed outcomes. It is about understanding that effort today may not produce visible change immediately, but it is still shaping your future. Every action contributes to long-term progress, even when you cannot see it yet. Commitment ensures that you stay on the path long enough for results to appear, and without it, even the best efforts eventually fade away. Confidence is not something you are born with, and it is not something that appears suddenly after one success. It is built slowly through repeated action, experience, and evidence that you can trust yourself. Many people misunderstand confidence and believe it comes from motivation, appearance, or external validation. But real confidence is deeper than that. It is the internal belief that you can handle challenges, follow through on your commitments, and keep going even when things are difficult. That belief is developed through consistency over time. Every time you take action towards something meaningful, you are collecting evidence about yourself. If you act once and stop, the evidence is weak and inconsistent. But when you act repeatedly, especially when it is difficult or uncomfortable, you build strong internal proof that you are capable. This proof becomes the foundation of confidence. It is not based on hope or imagination, it's based on experience. Confidence grows through repetition. The more you do something, the more familiar it becomes. Familiarity reduces fear. When something is new, your mind naturally feels uncertain because it does not know what to expect. But when you repeat the action, your brain begins to recognize patterns. What once felt intimidating becomes manageable. Over time, it can even become comfortable. This process is what transforms hesitation into confidence. One of the most important aspects of building confidence, action before feeling ready. Many people wait until they feel confident before they start something. But this approach rarely works because confidence does not come before action. It comes after it. You cannot think your way into confidence. You must act your way into it. Each step you take builds a little more confidence, even if the step feels small. Confidence is also built through overcoming discomfort. When you face something challenging and push through it, you prove to yourself that you can handle difficulty. This experience becomes part of your internal belief system. The next time you face a similar challenge, you feel less afraid because you have already survived something similar before. This repeated exposure to difficulty is what strengthens confidence over time. Another key factor is consistency. Confidence does not come from one big achievement, but from many small actions done repeatedly. Each time you show up and do the work, you reinforce your ability to be reliable. This reliability turns into self-trust, and self-trust is the foundation of confidence. When you know you can depend on yourself, you naturally feel more confident in your abilities. Inconsistency, on the other hand, weakens confidence. When you start something and stop repeatedly, you create doubt in your own mind. You begin to question whether you can follow through. This doubt slowly erodes confidence. That is why consistency is so important. It builds a stable pattern of behavior that strengthens your belief in yourself. Confidence is also shaped by progress. When you see improvement over time, even small improvements, it reinforces the idea that your actions are effective. This creates a positive feedback loop. You act, you improve, you gain confidence, and then you act again with more belief in yourself. This cycle continues and grows stronger with time. Another important aspect is that confidence is not about perfection. Many people think they need to perform perfectly in order to feel confident. But perfection is not required for confidence. In fact, waiting for perfection often prevents confidence from developing. Confidence is built through effort, mistakes, learning, and adjustment. It comes from the process, not flawless execution. Every mistake you make can actually contribute to confidence if you learn from it. Mistakes show you what is not working, help you improve. When you overcome mistakes and continue moving forward, you build resilience. This resilience strengthens confidence because it proves that setbacks do not stop you. Instead of weakening you, challenges become part of your growth. Confidence also grows when you take responsibility for your action. When you accept responsibility for your progress, you gain control over your development. You stop blaming external factors and start focusing on what you can do. This shift in mindset is powerful because it puts you in charge of your growth. And when you are in control, confidence naturally increases. Another important factor is preparation. The more you practice something, the more prepared you feel. Preparation reduces uncertainty, and reduced uncertainty leads to increased confidence. When you have done something many times, you no longer rely on guesswork. You rely on experience. This experience becomes the foundation of confidence in real situations. Confidence is also influenced by your environment, but not as much as your actions. While support and encouragement can help, they are not the source of real confidence. The true source is what you repeatedly do. Even in the absence of support, consistent action builds internal strength. This is why people who develop discipline often become confident, even in challenging environments. Another key point is that confidence grows when you keep promises to yourself. Every time you set a goal and follow through, you strengthen your self-trust. But every time you break a promise to yourself, confidence weakens. This is why small commitments matter. Even simple actions, when completed consistently, build strong confidence over time. Confidence also increases when you step outside your comfort zone. Doing something slightly difficult forces you to grow. At first, it feels uncomfortable, but after repeating it, you realize you are capable of more than you thought. Each step outside your comfort zone expands your belief in what you can do. Another important aspect is that confidence is closely linked to identity. When you repeatedly act in a certain way, you begin to see yourself as that type of person. For example, if you consistently practice a skill, you start identifying as someone who is skilled in that area. This identity reinforces your confidence and makes it easier to continue the behavior. Confidence is also built through persistence. When you continue working despite difficulty, you show yourself that you do not give up easily. This persistence becomes part of your self-image. You begin to see yourself as someone who can handle challenges and continue moving forward. Another key factor is that confidence is not static. It grows and develops over time. Even people who are highly confident in one area may feel uncertain in another. This shows that confidence is specific to experience. The more experience you gain in a particular area, the more confident you become in it. Confidence also requires patience. It does not develop overnight. It takes time, repetition, and effort. Many people give up too early because they expect quick results. But confidence is built slowly through consistent exposure to action and challenge. Another important point is that confidence is strengthened by action during uncertainty. When you act despite doubt, you weaken fear and strengthen belief in yourself. Each time you move forward without having all the answers, you build an internal strength. This ability to act despite uncertainty is a key part of true confidence. Confidence also grows when you measure progress based on effort rather than outcomes. If you only judge yourself by results, confidence can fluctuate. But when you focus on effort and consistency, confidence becomes more stable. You begin to value the process rather than just the outcome. Another key aspect is that confidence is reinforced through repetition. The more you do something, the more natural it feels. This repetition reduces hesitation and increases certainty in your abilities. Over time, actions that once felt difficult become automatic. Confidence also helps you take more action, which in turn builds more confidence. This creates a positive cycle. Action builds confidence, and confidence encourages more action. This cycle continues and strengthens over time, leading to steady personal growth. Another important factor is that confidence is not about comparing yourself to others. Comparing yourself to others can weaken confidence because it shifts your focus outward. Real confidence comes from internal progress, not external comparison. When you focus on your own development, confidence becomes more stable and meaningful. Confidence also grows when you handle failure correctly. Instead of seeing failure as a sign of weakness, confident individuals see it as part of the learning process. This perspective allows them to recover quickly and continue moving forward. Each failure becomes a step toward improvement. Another important aspect is that confidence is built through small wins. Every small success adds to your belief in yourself. These small wins accumulate over time and create a strong foundation of confidence. Even minor progress matters because it reinforces your ability to take action and achieve results. Ultimately, confidence is built through consistency. It is not something you wait for or receive. It is something you develop through repeated action, learning, and persistence. Every time you show up, take action, and push through difficulty, you strengthen your belief in yourself. Over time, this repeated effort transforms uncertainty into confidence and hesitation into certainty, creating a strong internal foundation that supports everything you do. Failure is part of the journey, not the end of it, because every meaningful achievement in life is built on a foundation of mistakes, setbacks, and lessons learned through experience. Many people fear failure so deeply that they avoid taking action altogether. They see failure as something final, something that defines them, or something that proves they are not capable. But in reality, failure is not a definition of who you are. It is feedback about what you did. It is information, not identity. And when you understand this, your entire relationship with progress changes. Every successful person has failed multiple times before reaching success. What separates them from those who quit is not the absence of failure, but their response to it. They do not treat failure as a stop sign. They treat it as a stepping stone. Each failure gives them new information, new understanding, and a clearer path forward. Without failure, growth becomes impossible because you would never know what needs improvement. Failure is often uncomfortable because it challenges your expectations. You expect things to work out when you put in effort, And when they do not, it feels discouraging. But this discomfort is actually part of the learning process. When something does not work, your mind is forced to adjust. You begin to analyze what went wrong, what can be improved, and how you can approach it differently next time. This reflection is what leads to progress. One of the biggest mistakes people make is interpreting failure as a sign to stop. They assume that if something did not work the first time, it will never work. But this assumption ignores the reality of growth. Most things that are worth achieving require multiple attempts. Skills, success, and mastery are not built in one try. They are developed through repeated effort and continuous refinement. Failure also builds resilience. Every time you face a setback and continue moving forward, you strengthen your ability to handle future challenges. This resilience is essential because life does not become easier as you grow. It often becomes more complex. If you learn to handle failure early, you become better prepared for bigger challenges later. Another important aspect is that failure removes ego. When you succeed too easily, you may begin to believe that everything should come naturally. But failure humbles you. It reminds you that growth requires effort, learning, and persistence. This humility is important because it keeps you open to improvement. People who never experience failure often struggle to adapt when things become difficult. Failure also sharpens focus. When something does not work, it forces you to pay attention to details you may have ignored before. You begin to notice patterns, mistakes, and areas for improvement. This increased awareness helps you refine your approach and improve your performance over time. Another key point is that failure builds patience. When results do not come immediately, you are forced to accept that progress takes time. This patience is essential for long-term success because meaningful goals cannot be rushed. Failure teaches you to slow down, reassess, and continue steadily rather than expecting instant results. Failure also helps you develop problem-solving skills. Every setback presents a problem that needs to be solved. When you face failure repeatedly, you become better analyzing situations and finding solutions. This ability to solve problems is one of the most valuable skills you can develop because it applies to every area of life. Another important aspect is that failure separates effort from outcome. It teaches you that doing your best does not always guarantee immediate success, but it still has value. Even when results are not visible, effort contributes to learning and growth. This understanding helps you stay committed even when things are not going well. Failure also strengthens determination. When you experience setbacks and choose to continue anyway, you build inner strength. This determination becomes part of your character. You begin to see yourself as someone who does not give up easily. This identity is powerful because it influences how you respond to future challenges. Another key factor is that failure creates clarity. When something does not work, it eliminates ineffective paths. This helps you focus on what actually works. In this way, failure is not just a setback. It is a filtering process that guides you toward better decisions. Failure also teaches emotional control. When things go wrong, it is easy to feel frustrated or disappointed. But learning how to manage these emotions is part of growth. Over time, you become more stable and less reactive. You begin to respond to failure with analysis instead of emotion. Another important point is that failure builds experience. No amount of theory can replace real experience. When you fail, you gain firsthand knowledge that cannot be learned any other way. This experience becomes valuable because it shapes how you approach future challenges. Failure also encourages adaptability. When your initial approach does not work, you are forced to try something different. This flexibility is essential for success because rigid thinking limits your ability to grow. The more you fail, the more adaptable you become. Another key aspect is that failure helps you develop persistence. Persistence is the ability to keep going despite obstacles. Without failure, persistence cannot be tested or developed. Each failure gives you an opportunity to strengthen this quality. Failure also builds character. It shapes how you respond to difficulty, how you handle pressure, and how you treat success. People who have experienced failure continue forward, often develop stronger character traits such as humility, resilience, and determination. Another important point is that failure provides feedback. It shows you what does not work, which is just as important as knowing what does work. Without feedback, you cannot improve effectively. Failure acts as a guide that helps you refine your actions. Failure also reduces fear over time. The more you experience failure and survive it, the less power it has over you. You begin to realize that failure is not destructive, it's temporary. This understanding reduces anxiety and increases confidence in your ability to handle challenges. Another key factor is that failure is part of the learning curve. Every skill has a learning process, and failure is an essential part of that process. You cannot master anything without going through mistakes and corrections. Failure also strengthens focus on long-term goals. When you experience setbacks, you are forced to reconsider your commitment. If your goal is strong enough, failure will not stop you. Instead, it will strengthen your focus and determination. Another important aspect is that failure builds emotional maturity. It teaches you how to handle disappointment, how to recover from setbacks, and how to continue despite difficulties. This emotional maturity is essential for long-term success. Failure also encourages self-reflection. After a setback, you naturally begin to think about what went wrong and how you can improve. This reflection leads to deeper understanding and better decision-making. Another key point is that failure helps you develop grit. Grit is the combination of passion and perseverance. It is built through repeated exposure to challenges and the decision to keep going despite them. Failure also improves future performance. Each mistake provides lessons that help you perform better next time. Over time, these lessons accumulate and lead to significant improvement. Another important aspect is that failure is universal. Everyone experiences it, regardless of their level of success. Understanding this helps you feel less isolated when things go wrong. You realize that failure is not a sign of weakness, but a natural part of growth. Failure also builds appreciation for success. When you work through difficulties and finally achieve something, the success feels more meaningful. It is not taken for granted because you understand the effort behind it. Another key factor is that failure helps eliminate fear of imperfection. When you fail repeatedly and continue, you begin to accept imperfection as part of the process. This acceptance allows you to take more action without being paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes. Ultimately, failure is part of the journey because it is the mechanism through which growth happens. Without failure, there is no learning, no improvement, and no progress. Every setback contains information that helps you move forward. When you stop seeing failure as the end and start seeing it as part of the process, you become more resilient, more capable, and more committed to your goal. Legacy is built through consistency, not moments, because what truly defines a person is not what they achieve in a single burst of effort or a few isolated successes, but what they repeatedly do over time when no one is watching and when there's no immediate reward. Legacy is not creating highlights. It is creating the habits, discipline, and the daily decisions that slowly shape a life into something meaningful and lasting. Most people think legacy is about fame, wealth, or recognition, but those are only byproducts. True legacy is about impact, influence, and a pattern of life you leave behind in others and in the world. Every person leaves a legacy, whether they realize it or not. The question is not whether you will leave one, but what kind you will leave. Legacy is formed through consistency. The small things you do every day accumulate into something far bigger than any single achievement. A moment can impress people, but consistency transforms lives. One moment can inspire, but consistency builds trust. One moment can create attention, but consistency creates identity. When people think of legacy, they often imagine a single defining moment. Winning a championship, delivering a powerful speech, building a successful business, or achieving a major milestone. While these moments may be visible and celebrated, they are not the foundation of legacy. They are the result of years of unseen effort. Behind every moment of success is a long period of consistency that no one talks about. The early mornings, the repeated failure, the days of discipline, and the decision to keep going, nothing seemed to be working, are what truly build legacy. Consistency is powerful because it compounds. Just like interest builds over time in finance, actions build over time in life. A small effort repeated daily becomes something massive over years. Reading a few pages every day turns into deep knowledge. Practicing a skill every day turns into mastery. Showing discipline every day turns into character. This compounding effect is what creates a lasting legacy. It is not intensity that matters most, but repetition. Legacy is also built in silence. The most important work often happens when no one is watching, when there's no applause, and when there's no recognition. It is easy to perform when others are paying attention, but consistency in private moments is what defines true character. The habits you maintain when you are alone are the ones that shape your future. These private actions eventually become public results. Another important aspect of legacy is that it is not built overnight. It requires time, patience, and endurance. Many people underestimate how long it takes to build something meaningful. They expect fast results and immediate recognition. But real legacy takes years, sometimes decades. It is the result of long-term commitment to a vision that does not change every time circumstances become difficult. Consistency also builds trust, and trust is a core part of legacy. People do not remember only what you achieved. They remember how reliable you were, how consistent you were, and how you showed up over time. When you are consistent, people begin to trust your actions and your character. That trust becomes part of your legacy. It lives on even after you are gone. Another key element is that legacy is not only about personal success, but also about influence on others. When you are consistent in your behavior, discipline, and values, you influence the people around you. Your consistency becomes a model for others to follow. Without even realizing it, you inspire others through your actions more than your words. This ripple effect is a powerful part of legacy. Moments of success may inspire people temporarily, but consistency shapes behavior. For example, someone can give a powerful motivational speech that moves people emotionally for a short time. But someone who consistently lives with discipline and integrity influences others in a deeper and more lasting way. People learn more from what you repeatedly do than from what you occasionally say. Legacy also requires patience because results are not always immediate. When you are building something meaningful, progress often feels slow. There are periods where nothing seems to change, where effort feels unnoticed, and where doubt begins to appear. This is where most people quit. But those who stay consistent during these invisible phases are the ones who build lasting legacy. They understand that absence of visible results does not mean absence of progress. Another important point is that consistency shapes identity. When you consistently act in a certain way, you become that type of person. If you consistently show discipline, you become disciplined. You become disciplined. If you consistently show integrity, you become trustworthy. This identity becomes part of your legacy because it defines how people remember you and what you stood for. Legacy is also built through repetition of values. It is not just about what you achieve, but how you achieve it. If your actions consistently reflect honesty, discipline, hard work, and dedication, those values become part of your legacy. People remember not only the outcomes you created, but the principles you live by. Another key aspect is that consistency creates stability. When your actions are predictable in a positive way, people feel secure around you. They know what to expect from you. This reliability becomes part of your influence. In contrast, inconsistency creates uncertainty and weakens long-term impact. Legacy requires stability over time. Stability over time. Consistency also builds mastery, and mastery contributes to legacy. When you do something repeatedly, you improve gradually. Over time, this improvement leads to expertise. Mastery is not achieved through occasional effort, but through consistent practice. And mastery is often what leaves a lasting impression on the world. Another important aspect is that legacy is not measured by how loudly you are remembered, but by how deeply you are felt. Some legacies are quiet but powerful. They live in the habits you inspired in others, the lessons you taught through example, and the lives you impacted through consistent action. These effects often continue long after the person is gone. Consistency also builds resilience, which is essential for legacy. Life is unpredictable and challenges are inevitable. When you are consistent, you develop the ability to keep going despite setbacks. This resilience ensures that your progress is not easily destroyed by temporary obstacles. Without consistency, even small challenges can disrupt your path. Another important point is that legacy is shaped by time more than talent. Talent can create early success, but consistency determines long-term impact. Many talented individuals fail to build lasting legacy because they rely on ability instead of discipline. Meanwhile, less naturally talented individuals who remain consistent often achieve greater long-term influence. Consistency also reduces dependency on motivation. Motivation is temporary and unreliable, but legacy requires sustained effort. When you build consistency, you no longer depend on how you feel in the moment. You act based on commitment, not emotion. This stability is what allows long-term progress. Another key factor is that legacy is built through habits. Your daily habits determine your long-term outcome. If your habits are aligned with growth, discipline, and purpose, your legacy reflects that. If your habits are inconsistent or negative, your legacy reflects that as well. Habits are the foundation of consistency, and consistency is the foundation of legacy. Legacy also requires sacrifice. Consistency often means choosing long-term impact over short-term comfort. It means showing up even when it is inconvenient, uncomfortable, or difficult. These sacrifices accumulate over time and form the foundation of something meaningful. Another important aspect is that legacy is built in moments of difficulty. It is easy to be consistent when everything is going well, but true consistency is tested during challenges, failures, and setbacks. How you respond during these moments defines your legacy more than how you perform during easy times. Consistency also creates momentum over time. Each repeated action builds on the previous one, creating a chain of progress. This momentum strengthens your ability to continue and makes it easier to maintain long-term effort. Another key point is that legacy is not about comparison. It is not about being better than others, but about being consistent with your own values and purpose. When you focus on your own consistency rather than external comparison, you build something authentic and meaningful. Ultimately, legacy is built through consistency because consistency turns ordinary actions into extraordinary impact over time. It transforms small efforts into lasting influence, daily habits into identity, and repeated behavior into meaning. Moments may capture attention, but consistency creates legacy.